Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to Season 19 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. Tonight here for round number 6 on the season at the Irwindale Speedway down in Irwindale, California for a little bit of short track in action here in these ARCA cars. It's been a little while since we've been out to this raceway, but always great to see these drivers back out here. Pulling up our race info here for today's event. A pretty modest 86 degrees outside here today. Pretty cool all things considered, especially considering the heat wave that has been hitting us in the real world lately. So great to see that it's slightly cooler out here in the virtual racing world for these drivers. Track opened up back in 1999, and unfortunately, just 6 months ago in December of 2024, at the end of the real world 2024 racing season, this track entered the annals of history. It is no longer open in the real world, and now lives on the iRacing.com racing platform. And it's going to be, looks like 10 drivers making the call to the field here today. Unfortunately, our website we use to track all of the league stats over these years has
Good evening,
currently
everybody.
down here tonight. Oh,
Wonderful week. I hope.
well, we forgot to turn the voice chat off. We'll fix that here in a minute before we start going racing.
Point out with
But
practice.
we don't have any stats for this track. A number of drivers has been here before. A number of races has been here before. It's a mystery. We're going to figure it out together, and we're going to fix these audio issues right quick, because we're not supposed to be getting radio transmissions from these drivers right now. So watch in amazement as your immersion is ruined here for a brief moment in tonight's event as we turn off the radio comms from these drivers so we can focus on the short track in action here tonight. But now that that's taken care of, how about we take a look down at our starting grid as it stands here for the time being. Starting out on the pole here in the number 61 machine, a driver making their debut start here for the league. That's going to be Hudson Rupp in the iRacing in number 61, starting out on the pole here tonight, starting his outside in the number 12. In that returning fire entry, it's going to be our current championship points leader in the returning fire entry out of Mechanicsville, Maryland. That's going to be Garrett Hess. Back in third, that's going to be the number 85 machine of Brian Sabelski back there. Our current runner-up in the point standings has been stuck in second place for a little while now in the point standings. Actually, I say that I'm mistaken now that I'm getting a look up here. He's actually third in the point standings, just barely behind Johnny Bell, but still has been a front runner all season and definitely one of the contesters for the championship. That's going to be Mr. Brian Sabelski. Back in fourth, it's going to be the number 7 machine of Kevin Alicia in that Hello Kitty entry here, the driver out of Orlando, Florida. Been having some really solid runs here this season. He's going to be starting it off up in position at number 4. Back in fifth in the number 93 machine, that is going to be Lister League Administrator Jason Gardner, the driver that we were getting the radio communications from just a moment ago in error. In that number 93 Motorcraft entry, he's going to be starting off in the 5th position. Back in 6th, it's going to be the 27 Dirt TV entry of Johnny Bell, who's been making all of our graphics here, followed by the 45 of Mark Kluge in 7th with a 188 of Joshua Rudolph in 8th. Corey Logan, the Caesar Box 24, back in 9th with Daniel Sparks, our one Canadian driver here this evening, rounding out the top 10 here tonight. We're already going green here at the Irwindale Speedway. So far, so good as we head down into turn number 1. It looks like everyone's handling the track A-OK. No incidences quite yet, which is always good to see here. We do have one driver a little bit off the pace back there. That is Joshua Rudolph way down at the bottom of the track. Sinking all the way back down to the 10th position just like that as we take the green flag here. Otherwise, looking around the field, everyone is doing all right for the most part. Garrett Hess off to an early lead, which is not super surprising to see. This is one of the few tracks that is actually highline dominant here, so you actually want to be up at the top of the track all the way around here rather than down on the bottom. And we're going to see lots of drivers here scraping against the outside wall throughout the progression of tonight's event. And right now, I'll tell you what, Garrett Hess, Hudson Rupp, both pulling away from the field here. They're already up to a full second lead over everyone else right now. Kevin Alessia, the driver, back in third for the time being in that Hello Kitty entry. Then it's going to be Brian Sabelski back in fourth. Jason Gardner back in fifth here, rounding out your top five. And already 5 laps in the books, just like that here. We are only just now getting this thing started. Still got plenty of racing left to go. But already everyone more or less just single filing it out, trying to take it easy. Maybe learning from their mistakes last week where we had a couple of early cautions from some big moves happening right at the start of the race. But already right now, everyone sort of single filed out. Everyone more or less just kind of running their race here. Keep taking it easy. The closest battle on the speedway is actually the battle for the race lead here between Garrett Hess and Hudson Rupp, your two front runners. Again, we're only 7 laps into this thing, and they've already built up a full second lead over the rest of the field. They are hot on each other's heels here. Taking a look at the lap times as they come across the line there, an 18:06 for Garrett Hess and 18:08 for Hudson Rupp. Back in third, Kevin Alessia, an 18:23. So that gives you a sense of the speed differential here as we start getting through the early goings of this race. The big question, though, is going to be, will these tires last on these ARCA cars? You can see how much Hudson here in particular is sliding the tires a little bit, trying to make this move down on the inside of Garrett Hess, but just not quite able to make it happen. Irwindale is a speedway that is pretty notoriously hard to pass on here, and you're seeing just how much trouble Hudson's having trying to figure out some sort of way to get around that 12 machine of Garrett Hess, and so far just not quite able to figure it out. And actually looks like these attempts that he's made have thrown him off his rhythm a little bit, because he has fallen back from about 0.2 of a second, really just being right on his bumper, now back to 0.3 of a second. He has made that ground back up here just a little bit, but it just goes to show how hard it is to pass, because if you don't make it sick, you're going to be losing a ton of time on the car in front of you. But you gotta keep in mind, Garrett Hess is a multi-time champion here in the ASRC Oval Series and a 3-time winner already in season number 19. And this is a rookie driver contesting together with him for the race lead. Really equally matched between these two. But I guess that's really not too much of a surprise. We've seen a lot of rookie drivers having some crazy breakout seasons. Unfortunately not present here tonight, but last week at Charlotte, Eduardo Muniz Jr. made his first ever start with the ASRC Oval Series and managed to walk away with a podium back at Charlotte. So just 2 weeks in a row where we've seen 2 brand new faces in the series, and they have shown that they have what it takes to compete with the best the league has to throw at them. But as we cross the line to complete lap number 15 here, well, we'll keep it on this battle for the time being, because it looks like Hudson's going to try and make some moves here. Not quite able to, but he was right nose to tail with Garrett Hess, actually pushing him down the back straightaway there, it looked like. We're going to take a moment, we're going to take a look a little bit further back around the field, see how the rest of these drivers are doing. Kevin right now, of course, almost 2 seconds back from Hudson Rupp, but he has Brian Sabelski not even half a second behind him in that number 85 machine. So these 2 drivers running in third and fourth have kind of separated into a field of their own here as well, because it's another 3 seconds back nearly to get to Jason Gardner here back in the 5th position, and Jason has Johnny, Mark Kluge, and Daniel Sparks all under a little bit of a blanket here with each other. Then it's further back, Joshua Rudolph in the 188, about 1.5 seconds back from these 4, and Corey Logan in the C0 box entry right now, quietly running back at the tail end of the field. But we still have a long race left to go, and there will be plenty of pit cycles for these drivers to worry about potentially making moves on strategy here. Speaking of making moves, though, Mark Kluge is gaining on Johnny Bell a pretty considerable bit here. Got it down to about 0.4 of a second between these 2 drivers, so this was the closest battle on the speedway for the time being. Hudson Rupp having fallen back from Garrett Hess by about 0.6 of a second here. Now got it down to a little bit less than 0.3 of a second, and Daniel Sparks is starting to close this gap in here as well. We might see some moves getting made here between these two drivers. Of course, here at Irwindale, it's pretty much just a big game of patience. It is just so difficult to make passes here. We'll pull up the battle box here for the timing. Johnny Bell, about 0.3 of a second ahead of Mark Kluge, who is about 0.4 of a second ahead of Daniel Sparks. Johnny getting a little bit offline there, and Mark Kluge attempting to follow through, but not quite able to do so. Now we're going to see Kluge try to go all the way down to the bottom of the racetrack, but still just not able to do it. You have to get these cars slowed down so much to make it on the inside of these corners that it's just really not feasible to make the move happen. Of course, like we said at the beginning of this race, this is a progressively banked raceway, so what that means is, well, the corners are progressively banked. The bottom of the corner has less banking than the top of the corner, so it's not consistent. The very bottom of the corner only has 6 degrees of banking to it, while the top of the corner has 12, so doubling that. And that's kind of one of the big reasons why you see these cars prefer the high line so much, because in terms of short track racing, really 6 degrees is not all that much at all to play with. So even if it is just 12 degrees of banking, that is a big enough difference that there's a pretty tremendous speed difference between the top and the bottom here. There's one driver scraping against the outside wall. That's Jason Gardner having some difficulty in that number 93. One of the only drivers on the field right now that is currently running in the same position as where he started. Both him and Johnny Bell just behind are the only drivers running where they qualified. Everyone else has gained or lost positions around them. Jason again scraping against the outside wall there in that number 93, but he's still hanging on to it pretty well, all things considered, which is a surprise to see. I would expect to be scrubbing a lot more speed scraping up against these corners, but everyone seems to be doing all right with these wall bumps so far. Johnny starting to run a slightly lower line through the corner here. But right now, Daniel Sparks is just worrying about the pressure from behind from Mark Kluge, and Kluge is actually alongside, not quite anymore. He had the nose alongside with that number 4 machine, and he's got the nose alongside here again, but it's just the same issue. With that progressive baking, it's just so much more difficult to get the car to rotate lower in the corner compared to all the way up against the wall. It's just, you need a stroke of luck to make it happen, or you need the driver in front of you to make some sort of big mistake and end up into the outside wall to really make that pass happen. Particularly while everyone is equally matched on tires. Once the tires wear down, I think we'll be able to see drivers making more passes because, oh, that is a big one, and the caution flag is out just like that. That was a single car incident, but that was a big single car incident. And that's going to be for the 4 machine of Daniel Sparks that immediately takes the tow truck down to pit lane. And just like that, we'll be bunching this field back up. That is going to be caution flag number 1 on the speedway. Let's take a look back and see this incident again. I'm pretty sure this was entirely a single car incident. Coming out of turn number 4 here, gets a little bit loose, tries to hang on to it, hits the outside wall, very close to avoid by the 45 Mark Kluge, and massive impact into the tire barrier there. Take a look back. Let's ride on board here with Daniel Sparks and get an onboard view of that impact. Just gas it up a little bit too hard. The car snaps out from inside of him. And there's a tire barrier. Massive impact there for Daniel Sparks, though. That was rough. Let's take one more look back and let's ride on board with Joshua Rudolph as he saw that incident there. Or excuse me, not Joshua Rudolph. We want Mark Kluge in that 45. Big impact for such a small track, and obviously not low speeds, but relatively low speeds compared to like back at Charlotte last week. Definitely a big impact to be had. We do have some takers down on pit lane under this caution, though. Garrett Hess is going to make the call to come down, as well as it looks like Mark Kluge and Hudson Rupp also made the call to come down to pit lane. Same with Joshua Rudolph in that 188. Everyone else still staying out, so that will have Kevin Alessia as your control car coming to the green here. Going to be starting alongside Brian Sabelski in second. Then row 2 going to be Jason Gardner and Johnny Bell. Row 3, Corey Logan, Mark Kluge. Row 4, Hudson Rupp and Joshua Rudolph. And then Garrett Hess back at the very tail end of the field here. Now we've already got them stacked back up 2 by 2, so it looks like we will be going green this time by. Sure enough, the pace car is off the track, so we will be throwing the green this time by. Kevin Alessia, Brian Sabelski, your front row here. And green flag back up in the air here at Irwindale. A really solid start here by Alessia, but everyone else back in the mid-pack is very jumbled up here. Hang on to it, y'all. There's a couple of big drivers strafing up against the outside wall there. But everyone keeps it pointed in the right direction for the moment. And we come across the line. It is still green on the raceway, and we are still 2 by 2 in several places here. Gardner and Bell still side by side. Hudson Rupp down on the bottom trying to make some moves here in that 61 machine. He's going to get all the way up to the 4th position on that restart just like that. Kevin Alessia continues to lead. Corey Logan now, no, not Corey Logan, excuse me. That was Mark Kluge up on the outside wall. I'm so used to seeing Corey Logan drive a predominantly green car that it throws me off seeing that green car on the speedway. That is not Corey Logan. Corey rocking orange and teal here for tonight's race. But still, lots of good battles around the speedway. We have single-filed it out for the time being, and Hudson Rupp is all over the tail end of Brian Zabelski here for the 2nd position. Hudson wants to get back up to the front, especially since he was able to restart in front of Jason Gardner. That is such a big deal for Hudson. We might be able to see him get up to the front of this race because Garrett Hess currently has 2 drivers behind him that are in the way. Just like that, Hudson going to make the move on Brian Sabelski for 2nd, but not quite able to clear Alessia, and that might just be one of the first passes we've seen down on the bottom of the raceway. We have gotten word, though, that Daniel Sparks has officially retired from tonight's event, so he will bring it home in the 10th position. Unfortunately, they've packed it up on the hauler. They are getting ready to head home for the night. Rupp now down to the bottom. Once again, he's going to make the move on the inside around Kevin Alessia, doing that slide job up the raceway, and he's going to make it stick, but Alessia now drops down to the bottom. He wants to see if he can't try and make the same move work, but he thinks wiser of it, stays up to the high line, keeps running his race. Alessia now back to 2nd. Will we see Sabelski try and make a move down here on the bottom as well? Mind you, Rupp is one of only 4 drivers that took tires on that restart, or went down to pit lane at all, excuse me. So Rupp went down, then Garrett Hess back in 5th went down right now. So Rupp right now is doing definitely the best out of all these drivers that pitted. Really the only driver that pitted that has seemingly gotten an advantage here in terms of speed for the time being. But still, it's a very close battle from 2nd all the way back to 4th here. Alessia, Sabelski, Gardner, and Garrett Hess all completely under a blanket here for the time being. You can see Hess trying to figure out how to poke his nose beneath the 93 of Jason Gardner, and it looks like, for a second there, it looks like he was going to make the high line work, but not quite able to. And it was side by side further up ahead as Brian Sabelski trying to make the moves on Kevin Alessia, all while Hudson Rupp continues to pull away with the race lead, now up to a 1.5 second lead here. And really, it's just still completely nose to tail with these 4 front runners. Jason Gardner again scraping against the outside wall there, losing a bit of speed, but not enough for Garrett Hess to capitalize on it quite yet here. Now we see Garrett trying to make the moves down to the bottom, and Jason again scraping against the outside wall, so that is going to allow Garrett to get around him here. Now move Garrett up to the 4th position, but he still has a lot of climbing left to do if he wants to get back up to that front running spot he was in. Alessia still doing his best to hang on to the second position. We'll see how the lap times are this time by, see how they shake up. An 18:15 for Hudson Rupp, an 18:51 for Alessia, an 18:60 for Brian Zabelski, an 18:46 for Garrett Hess. So it definitely seems like Rupp is doing the best of the bunch here on these new tires. Zabelski now going to try and make a move down to the bottom of the raceway, and the same sort of move that we saw made by Hudson Rupp. And he's going to stick it, so Brian Zabelski is going to move his way up to second. Now Alessia has to worry about Garrett Hess down there as well. Alessia finding himself in an uncomfortable position here between two multi-time champions. One just in front of him, one now down to the inside, trying to make the move on him down to the bottom, but not quite able to here yet. We did have a faster position just a moment ago, back at the back, side by side here for Corey Logan and Joshua Rudolph. Rudolph down on the bottom, Logan up on the top here. Neck and neck for the 8th position here. Both these drivers about 4 seconds back from the rest of the field, but they are certainly battling with everything they've got towards each other, and there's a little bit of contact. Logan just a slight scrape against the outside wall there, but that's going to allow Rudolph to have the advantage. Will Rudolph be able to clear up this time by? Not quite. Logan is still there in this battle. But it definitely seems like Rudolph has the advantage down the bottom, and this time Rudolph is going to clear Logan. Logan has to check up just a little bit to avoid contact there, so that'll move Rudolph up to 8th. Corey Logan down to 9th here. Up at the front, Garrett Hess was able to make it around Kevin Alessia, so that bumps Alessia back down to the 4th position here. And interestingly, now that this pit cycle has gone through, I remember just a moment ago, before that caution came out, I mentioned that Jason Gardner and Johnny Bell were the only two drivers currently running in their starting positions. Now that is a complete lie. Every single driver on the field right now, excluding Brian Zabelski and Garrett Hess, who are swapped by one position. Everyone else is now running in the position where they qualified here tonight. And this, I think, is where we're going to see these drivers start to try and settle into a rhythm and keep the green flag out for as long as they can and just bring it on home wherever they're able to. Of course, 57 laps in the book so far, still over, or no, not over 100, just barely under 100 left to go, so not even halfway through tonight's event yet. And of course, a lot of these drivers still need to pit. Brian Zabelski still needs to pit, Alessia still needs to pit, Gardner and Bell both still need to pit, and Corey Logan still needs to pit here as well. So a whole lot of what-ifs still up in the air here at Irwindale for the time being. But for the moment, how about we take a moment to ride on board with one of our drivers and get some views around this half-mile raceway. Riding on board there with Johnny Bell for those pictures. You can see how difficult this track can be, even when you're just running by yourself. It's just so demanding trying to keep those cars planted up on the top of the Once again, finding ourselves having some mysterious audio difficulties here up in the broadcast booth here tonight. Still haven't gotten trackside audio back working here, but we do have a very exciting battle on the raceway here between Brian Zabelski and Garrett Hess duking it out for the second position here. Hess down on the bottom, Zabelski up on the high line, and these two drivers have been at each other's throats here for the last couple of laps. And crossing the line here on to lap number 76, we are officially halfway through tonight's event. So, things might start to get spicy here. The drivers might start to take the gloves off and be a little bit more argy-bargy with each other here. Again, still, a lot of the field still needs to come down pit lane. Savelski has not pitted yet, nor has Alicia, Gardner, or Bell. But Savelski is the one that I'm really worried about right now because he is battling with a driver that has already done his pit stop. Really, it looks like with only a 3-second pit stop for Garrett Hess, that is not enough time to put tires on these cars, so I think it might have been a fuel-only stop for Garrett Hess. Hudson Rupp on the other side had a 14-second stop, so I think Rupp does have new tires, and it's just Garrett Hess was doing a fuel-only stop. That thing does make things look a little bit better for Savelski, but the fact of the matter is, one way or another, Savelski does have to pit again, or pit for the first time at some point here in tonight's event. So we will just have to see how things go here. That said, Garrett Hess has made the move up to the second position now, and with that, everyone is once again running in the same starting order that they qualified in 80 laps prior. A little bit further back, the battle between Johnny Bell and Mark Kluge is still going on here as well. Johnny running in the 6th position, Kluge back in second, only about 0.2 of a second separating the two of them. Kluge was running the high line, but arcs it down low, trying to make some ground up here on Johnny Bell, but it doesn't quite seem to be working. That said, while we have a moment where the drivers are being relatively calm with each other, how about we take a step away to try and get this trackside audio back brought to y'all. Alright, so it does look like we've got trackside audio restored now. Fortunately, that seems like a pretty straightforward fix. in the time being while we were doing that, Corey Logan did make the call to come down to pit lane under the green flag. And it looks like it was about an 8-second stop for them. So that'll bring him back out on the raceway 2 laps down. Joshua Rudolph also a lap down right now for the time being. So should we see a caution flag come out, that will be Joshua Rudolph. That will be the lucky dog and put back on the lead lap here. But of course, that is going on the assumption that there will be another caution flag. We're not positive about that yet. But how about this battle for second place here between Garrett Hess and Brian Sabelski? They are still absolutely going at it here with each other. Sabelski still running in the 3rd position, but he's right on Hess's bumper here. Another fun fact about this raceway we failed to mention back at the very start of this video, this was the first ever track, or I guess better put, this was the track that was competed at for the first ever broadcast here on this channel. The first ever broadcast that I called was in this series at this track all the way back in season number 7. Crazy how time flies through. It's been what, two years now? Probably longer than that. I think it's actually been 3 years now that you think about it. And a lot of these drivers that we saw in that first ever broadcast are still competing here tonight. All these years later. I know Brian Sabelski was there, Jason Gardner was there, Johnny Bell was there. I believe Garrett Hess might have been there as well for that first ever race. Corey Logan was definitely there. So it's great to see the community that ASRC has fostered and seeing all these drivers compete out here time and time again every Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. And hey, that's a moment to shout out the league. The league is free to enter, always looking for new drivers, even in the mid-season. Anyone that's interested in competing in the league, the only requirement is to be a clean and respectful driver. Be sure to look up Patrician Sim Race Campus on iRacing and give us a join and come out and compete in the Monday Night Oval Series. Well, it's pretty evenly paced here between Hess and Sabelski. Hess has pulled the gap up a little bit to about 0.4 of a second, but either way, the lap times between the two of these drivers are still very similar. 18.54 for Garrett Hess, 18.57 for Sabelski here. And closing in on lap 100, only going to be 50 to go here coming in soon. And again, Sabelski still needs to pit. So a lot of unknowns here on how that is going to turn out. A little bit further back, that battle between Mark Kluge and Johnny Bell is still going on here as well, as Kluge right now trying to hang on and keep from being lapped by that 61 car of Rupp. And just like that, Kluge is going to be lapped there, and there's going to be contact between the two of them. So now Mark Kluge is being scored 1 lap down, Corey Logan being scored 3 laps down. Kluge now in the lucky dog position should that caution flag come out. But Hudson Rupp right now in an absolute class of his own, and now he's going to start looking to try and put Johnny Bell a lap down here as well. Now leave just 5 cars left on the lead lap should he be able to. Up, keeping up to the high line through turns 1 and 2, but we'll probably, no, I was going to say we'll probably see his big move down to the inside, down on the apron in 3 and 4, but no, he's going to keep it up high. And just like that, Johnny Bell will be put a lap down here. So now we see Johnny be in the lucky dog spot. That makes Jason Gardner next on the chopping block, but Jason has a little bit of breathing room to play with here. It's about roughly 18 seconds is the gap between the leader and the tail end of the field right now. Of course, Gardner is 12 seconds behind right now. So he shouldn't have to worry too much about getting lapped here for the time being. But still, looking at the battle for second and third, this battle is still going on between Hess and Sabelski, but Sabelski has just not quite figured out a way to get back up into this mix with Garrett Hess. The two of them are pretty steadily coming up on lap traffic though, so we might see this play an impact here on these drivers, because some of these lap cars up here are battling amongst themselves as well. Mark Kluge still in that battle with Johnny Bell. And Rudolph is starting to gain as well. He's starting to become a part of this picture here as well. So this is the battle for the Lucky Dog spot going on here between Mark Kluge in the green and turquoise Scooby-Doo car and Johnny Bell in the red and deep blue car up there. And here you can see Garrett Hess and Brian Sabelski coming through this lap traffic, and that gap has narrowed between the two of them. Now only 0.2 of a second. Sabelski all over the rear bumper of Garrett Hess. They've got lap cars on the top and lap cars on the bottom. Figuring out where to go is not going to be easy. Corey Logan pulling it down to the bottom of the raceway there, trying to stay out of the way. Now they have that battle between Johnny Bell, Mark Kluge, and Joshua Rudolph to deal with in front of them. All three of those cars in front of Garrett Hess right now. While they are all a lap down, they are all battling with each other for the Lucky Dog spot. So these three are probably going to be a lot less willing to just pull over and let Hess and Sabelski by while they have their own battle going on here. Hess still just ripping the high line, kind of run of his race, keeping an eye out for these drivers, trying to see what all they'll do. And of course, he has to worry about fending off Brian Sabelski just behind here as well. Now we see the 188 come down to the bottom of the raceway. Same with Mark Kluge there, and they're both going to have to check up just to make the cars rotate around the bottom of the corner here. Johnny having a little bit of a scrape against the wall, but now Hess is going to get around that 45. He gets around the 188 as well. Now Sabelski is just going to have to follow through, and it looks like he's going to be able to do it without too much difficulty, as those lap cars do go ahead and keep it down to the bottom of the raceway. And of course, they are not being forced to do that at all. That is just kind of the common courtesy thing to do here in Oval Series competition, but they have every right to try and defend their spot. They're just doing it because they figure it's not worth it. Might as well not interfere with this battle between these race leaders. And watch out there, big speed going down to turn number 1 for Brian Sabelski. Nearly rear ends the back of Garrett Hess. But still, both drivers keep it pointed in the right direction, and it looks like they are both going to be able to get around Johnny Bell without too much difficulty there. Now this battle is going to be continuing here in clean air for both of these drivers. Don't have any more lap cars to worry about here for the foreseeable future. Jason Gardner still very comfortably on the lead lap in that number 93 car, so he doesn't have anything to worry about. Right now, all of the drama is just this battle for second between Hess and Sabelski here. And just up ahead, Hudson Rupp seems to be slowing down a little bit. Last time by an 18.78 for Rupp. Last time by an 18.62 for Hess and 18.57 for Sabelski. These two drivers in second and third, as much as they're battling it out with each other, they are steadily catching up to our race leader, Hudson Rupp. I think Hudson's just burned his tires up, pushing a little bit too hard, maybe through that lap traffic, but they're both going to catch up to him one way or another here. A little bit further back, we still have a three-way battle going on here for the Lucky Dog position. Johnny Bell, Mark Kluge, Joshua Rudolph, all battling it down for the last position on the lead lap. Corey Logan there, not a part of that battle in that CZ Robotics 24, as Corey is not on the same lap as these drivers. Kluge going to try and make a move down to the bottom of the track. It's not going to stick. Has to get on the brakes to keep from drifting up into Johnny Bell, and that's going to allow Rudolph to make the move there. Now Rudolph sending it in deep, hot on the heels of Johnny Bell, maybe giving a little bit of a nudge there into the corner. Fortunately, nobody got spun around there. But all three of these drivers absolutely neck and neck. I think they know, particularly with the fact that Hudson Rupp is suddenly losing so much time. There we go. There's the contact. Just like that, the caution flag is out on the speedway for the second time in a row. We're going to bunch this field back up. And because the caution involved Joshua Rudolph and Johnny Bell, I don't think we're going to see there be a Lucky Dog. If I'm not mistaken, if the driver that was involved in the incident, or if the driver that would be the Lucky Dog was involved in the incident, obviously they wouldn't become the Lucky Dog, but I don't think it moves to the next possible driver. I think it's just, if that driver isn't eligible, there is no Lucky Dog. So that's going to be very unfortunate for these three drivers. They're battling it out so hard, trying to get the lucky dog spot, and now none of them are going to get it. Let's take a look back. Let's look at this replay here to bring out caution flag number 2 between Johnny Bell and the 188 of Joshua Rudolph going down in turn number 1. Joshua just sent it a little bit too deep, and there's the 45 of Mark Kluge getting into Johnny as well. Before we get any more replays there, let's take a look at the situation down on pit lane, and it looks like the entire field is making the call to come down, except for Hudson Rupp. Hudson is going to stay out. He is going to maintain his lead, but at what cost? Because the entire rest of the field here is probably going to be putting on new tires, if I had to guess. I mean, we'll see how these pit stops shake out here. We'll take a look at the timing. Definitely tires on Sabelski, tires on Garrett Hess. A little bit of a slow stop for Alicia, but tires for him as well. All of these pit stop times are in the 14 to about 30-second range so far. Joshua Rudolph and Johnny Bell both on pit lane still, I think, getting damage repaired, but Johnny's coming back out, so is Joshua Rudolph, so minor damage for both these cars. The lights are out on the pace car, so we will be going green this time by, and it's going to be Hudson Rupp on roughly 80 lap old tires leading the field. Every driver behind him has brand new tires put on their cars. He is going to be put in a sticky situation here to try and hang on to this lead. But as we roll into the restart zone, green flag up in the air. It's going to be Rupp and Garrett Hess leading the field into turn number 1. Hess on new tires. Rupp is not. Rupp immediately up into the outside wall. He's going to lose a bunch of ground. Kevin Alicia up into the outside wall here as well. And we might have Reckon back there. Let's take a look. No, everyone's still pointing in the right direction. Just more drivers hitting the outside wall. Everyone is sending it as hard as they can. And on these new tires, they haven't got back up to temperature yet. And maybe sending it a little bit too hard here. But Garrett Hess going to be your new race leader. Sabelski is pushing big time trying to get around Hudson Rupp. Hudson scraping up against the outside wall multiple times now. It looks like those old tires on that 61 machine are not holding up here, because here comes Jason Gardner here down the bottom. Again, a scrape against the outside wall for Rupp, as Garrett Hess is going to set the new fastest lap of the race, that time by a 17.89 for the driver out of Mechanicsville, Maryland. Hudson now all the way back to the 4th position, make that all the way back to 5th here, as Kevin Alicia now to the bottom, trying to make the move down to the inside on these new tires. And Kevin is going to make it 6th, so that will bump him up to the 4th position. And as I figured, because of that caution involving all of the eligible candidates, there was no lucky dog, so still only 5 drivers on the lead lap. This battle between Rupp and Alicia is the battle for the final lead lap position, but Rupp again going to scrape against the outside wall. That's going to bump him back down to 5th. Now the last driver on the lead lap, but still on the lead lap nonetheless. Should another caution flag come out, he will be in a position to take tires and get back up into this battle. But Garrett Hess leads the field with a 7/10 of a second lead over Brian Sabelski, but that lead is diminishing here. Well, I say that and it goes back up. Sabelski had a good run into the corner, got it down to about 0.6 of a second, but then it immediately comes back up to almost 0.8 of a second on corner exit. 25 laps left to go here at Irwindale. The clock is ticking to try and make whatever little bit of moves left that there is to make. Still 0.7 of a second between the two of them here. Garrett Hess last time by an 18.01. Brian Sabelski last time by a 17.95. So at least last time by, Sabelski had a very, very slight advantage. Not enough to really make a difference here for the time being, but we'll have to see as these tires wear in if they're able to do anything with them. Further back in the pack, Joshua Rudolph and Johnny Bell once again are finding themselves neck and neck. And we saw how that ended up last time, so definitely going to be very fun to keep an eye on that battle between these two drivers here. And now we see Rudolph trying to make the move down to the inside of Johnny Bell. And this time it looks like it's going to stick a lot less painfully. That's going to move Rudolph up to the 7th position. But no, Johnny Bell slingshots by on the outside. Not quite clear yet for that 188. And both these drivers are starting to catch up to an injured Hudson Rupp, who is kind of limping that car around the raceway. 4 seconds behind the rest of the field. It definitely just seems like those older tires have just given way on him on that restart, because he is still beating and banging against the outside wall here in that 61 machine. Definitely a heartbreaking end of the race here so far, with how good he was doing in the early goings of this one, but those tires just ain't holding on for him here. But how about we take a look at the track map and see how things are kind of filing out here at Irwindale. The two closest drivers on the speedway in terms of battling for a position is the 12 and the 85 of Hess and Sabelski battling for the race lead, but even then, almost a full second between the two of them is separating them. 18 laps left to go though, still plenty of time for all sorts of chaos, all sorts of randomness to take its hold on the raceway. Nothing is set in stone here until these drivers take the checkered flag. I'll tell you what, out of all these drivers on the raceway, I know Garrett Hess is hoping and praying that a caution flag does not come out again, because if a caution flag comes out, that is going to be Sabelski's best bet to try and take over the lead of this race. Going to be 15 to go this time by. Gap still 0.8 of a second between Sabelski and Hess here. They're just so equally matched with each other. Neither driver is really making any moves one way or another. Garrett Hess last time by an 18.21. Sabelski last time by an 18.26. And I imagine the story is going to be roughly the same as we come across the line this time by. Now an 18.24 for Hess and 18.23 for Sabelski. So again, it's so equally matched between the two of them. Sabelski just can't really seem to catch up. He's going to have Hess make some sort of mistake to make that ground up. Either have Hess make a mistake or have a caution flag come out to bunch the field back up. But right now, the pace is just too identical between the two of them for Sabelski to really make that ground up. That's just a testament to the skill of these two drivers. I mean, they're both multi-time champions here in the ASRC Oval Series for a reason. They have both shown time and time again that they have what it takes to be up on top, and they are both just equally matched with each other. Of course, coming into tonight's events, 3 wins on the season for Garrett Hess, 1 win for Sabelski, the other one going to Daniel Sparks for the time being. So we'll see how things play out. We've still got half the season left to go. But as we head through turns 3 and 4, we're going to get double high fives up the air from Barney Flagman. 10 laps left to go here at the Irwindale Speedway. Only 5 miles of racing competition left. And we do have something to keep an eye on here. Depending on how quickly they catch up, Hess is catching some lap traffic in the form of the CZ Robotics 24 of Corey Logan and the Dirt TV 27 of Johnny Bell. That might be just a little bit of a hiccup for Garrett Hess that Sabelski needs to close the gap back up, because right now Sabelski's gap has now fallen to above a second between the two of them. Speaking of changing gaps though, how about back here in third? Kevin Alessia is pretty steadily catching up to Jason Gardner here. Now down to 0.7 of a second between the two of them as Jason just keeps finding himself scraping against the outside wall time and time again. So I think those tires on the 93 machine are starting to give out here, because that was basically a scrape against the wall the whole way down the back straightaway, and that allowed Kevin Alessia to get all the way down to within 0.4 of a second. And again, Jason bouncing off the outside wall, and again he does it, but so does Alessia. Now still 0.5 of a second between these two drivers as they battle it out for the final podium position. Hess has pulled away to a full 1 second lead. Sabelski 3 seconds over this battle between Gardner and Alessia. So it looks like first and second are pretty much locked in here. It's just coming down to this battle for third, which is the closest battle on the speedway right now between Gardner and Alessia. But that said, Gardner, he's gotten a couple of clean laps in there as we get 5 laps left to go. But a couple of clean laps there for Gardner, and he has built the gap back up to 0.7 of a second here. He's managed to get that car off the wall, and he's keeping it off the wall that way. And you can see he's running a noticeably lower line now just to make sure he doesn't keep scraping the outside wall and letting Alessia catch up. Now 4 laps left to go here at Irwindale. Garrett Hess leading the way with a 1.1, now actually make that 1.3 second lead over Sabelski. Last time by an 18.43 for Hess, an 18.56 for Sabelski, and 18.56 for Gardner. So it definitely looks like Sabelski has burnt the good off those tires trying to push his way back up to the front, and that might just be all she wrote. As they look down at that 12 machine as he comes down the back straightaway, though, he just needs a 1/4 of a mile without the caution flag coming out, and he will be smooth sailing to the finish line here. And his wish is going to be granted. White flag up in the air. It doesn't matter what happens on this speedway now. We will not be throwing the we will not be throwing the caution flag, and we will not stack this field back up. But it's going to be 2 more corners for Garrett Hess here, and it is smooth sailing for him coming out of turn number 4. Garrett Hess going to take home win number 4 of season number 19 to his name. Right now it's slowly coming across the line here, getting their cool down laps in. But it's going to be win number 4 for the driver out of Mechanicsville, Maryland here tonight. And he's going to bring it down to the front straightaway to burn it down. What a performance we have seen out of Garrett here this season in this ARCA car. It's been great to see him out there. And we still have half the season left to go to see what this driver is going to be able to do. For now, though, don't go anywhere, race fans. We will be back here in just a moment with some words with your top 3 finishers. Alrighty, race fans, welcome back here to Irwindale Speedway. 150 laps in the books. Many different names taking home laps led here tonight, but it's going to be none other than Garrett Hess taking home win number 4 here in season number 19. Mr. Hess, how are you feeling here tonight?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm a little bit worn out, but overall, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, definitely a solid performance here by you here tonight. Starting out not on the pole, excuse me, but starting out next to a rookie driver, first ever start, they take home the pole. Did that give you any worries coming into tonight's race?
A little bit. I was the one who invited Hudson into the league, so I know that he's fast. I know that he's capable of driving these cars cleanly. But yeah, I just got really lucky to start on the outside, and here the outside is the preferred line, and I was able to match Hudson's start, and I just got around him by the end of the first lap, and then me and him went in on lap 20. He took tires because he thought there wasn't going to be another yellow, and then I came in to take fuel, so that put us at the back, and we had to work our way through the field. But very pleased with tonight's result.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like the strategy worked out for you here. Were you coming into this track expecting to take home another win?
I knew that it'd be a good race. This is one of those tracks where it's really difficult to pass at, and you really got to work someone over to earn your spots. And that's just what I had to do to a lot of people. I just had to dive it in there and then stick it around them. And eventually, that last caution worked out in my favor because Hudson didn't have any tires left, and I was able to get around him pretty easily. And that gave me just enough. It just gave me just enough distance between me and Brian where I could keep him about a second behind me. And he definitely kept me on my toes. Definitely gave me a very good race. But I was just able to hold him off, so I'm very pleased with myself on that.
Yeah, definitely a solid performance there. And in that final stretch of the race, Sabelski was running basically identical lap times with you. So do you think if there was a late race caution, would you have been able to hold him off?
I think so. I mean, I would have chosen the top line, and I think that I might have been able to keep him behind me, but no one really knows here. Irwindale, the passes you have to make are kind of bonkers to make him stick. So anything could have really happened, but I think that I had a decent shot. If another caution came out late in the race, as long as I chose the outside, I had a decent shot at holding him off.
Fair enough. We can talk about what ifs all night here, of course, though, but one way or another, you have gotten checkered flag number 4 here this season, furthering your points lead just a little bit more over the competition. Next week, heading on over to Nashville Fairgrounds. Do you think you'll be making it number 5 there?
I don't know. I haven't driven Nashville Fairgrounds in a couple of years, but it's a very fun short track. I know it's very fun in the Xfinity cars. So it should be a bunch of fun in these cars, hopefully. So looking for another clean race like this one with minimal amounts of cautions.
Good deal. Definitely sounds like we have a lot to be looking forward to next week. For now, though, I won't keep you here all night. You got another win to your name to go and celebrate. But before I let you go, the microphone is all yours. Who do you want to thank for making everything happen?
Yeah, I want to thank Hudson Rep for joining the league and showing up and buying Irwindale to race tonight. Definitely was fun racing with him. I want to thank everyone who did show up to this race. You know, Irwindale is not a track where not a lot of people have it. I want to thank everyone at Team Western Racing. Yeah, you know my whole shtick. Great group of guys are there. Team Western Racing Setups.com. Blah 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 blah. Big thanks to Livewire. Great speed thrash metal brand. Check the latest return file or unattack. And thank you for running the show. I thank Jason for running this.
Good deal. Thank you for coming out here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next week at Nashville. And finishing back here in position number 2, Mr. Brian Sabelski here. Once again, finding yourself in the runner-up position. So incredibly close, but not quite any cigar. How are you feeling here tonight?
I think I'm breaking up. Sorry.
It might be on my end. Let me see here. That might have cleared it up.
There you go. Yeah, mine is also dying, so don't worry. I guess I'll say that his signal is dying. Mine was dying too. So, no worries there. So I assume you asked how I'm feeling. A little bummed that finished second, but this is a tough track to pass at, and that last restart was just kind of like I had to get around. Had to get around Hudson really quickly, and I couldn't really do it because the track is so narrow, and I just let Garrett walk at the end. He really he was able to make times all night. So that was kind of, but also nice to catch. You just feel like oh well, not just second. I'm on the run, but it's they're loud. It's not gonna be a long run. That's the way to go. Sometimes kind of that better shot. We're going for a while or two, so what it is. Can only do much. I think the one play. Late read. I don't know would have been able to. I heard it mentioned he would out. I would have taken it as well. It's just the outside is so strong here that you have to take it on a restart just to kind of not give up that top side momentum. But that is the way these things go, and yeah, still got a good finish out of it. Hopefully I can get another win here soon, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean you've been so consistent all of this season. It's been a little bit painful, I'd imagine, to have all of these runner-up finishes, but next week going to another short track, heading on over to Nashville Fairgrounds. Do you think maybe that might be the track to make it click?
Maybe. I like Nashville. Definitely feel comfortable racing there. It should be quick there. I don't know, it's gonna be one of those things. I know Garrett. He's like, I'm gonna be slow here, and then he goes out and runs like a 10th faster than everybody else. I'm just like, oh, Garrett, come on. But no, it should be good next week. I'm a little bit worried. Not necessarily like this group is like bad like that, but the Nashville's really bumpy track, and it's a tough track to pass at. Less so than here. There's multiple grooves, but just the rough nature of the surface makes it really easy to you hit a bump wrong, and next thing you know, you're sideways in the corner. I've had some pretty good success at Nashville Fairgrounds, so my hope is that we can do more of that next week.
Yeah, definitely sounds like something to be looking forward to. Something to keep in mind too, we have had 2 races in a row now with brand new rookie drivers contesting for race leads in their first ever league starts. So assuming that those 2 show up here again, and you have to battle with them on top of Hess here, how are you feeling about your odds with all these newcomers?
Well, I think it makes it more fun. You get a lot of times you get new people in here, and they add something new to the mix, and everyone I think so far has been really consistent and nice, and nobody's been really out of hand or anything like that. So it's better than some of the other leagues I'm in where you get new people and it's just kind of like you gotta deal with them like dive bombing everybody and stuff like that. But no, here it's been pretty good, so I definitely welcome them, and let's hopefully have some good racing next week.
Good deal. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Of course, before I let you go and celebrate your podium here tonight, the microphone is all yours, Mr. Sabelski. Who you want to thank for making everything happen?
Of course, thank you for doing the broadcast, and Jason and everyone for the league, setting everything up. Maconi Setup Shop official Setup Shoppy NASCAR, always good to have them on board. SM Racing Products, who make the awesome button box I use, love it. Check them out. smracingproducts.com. Dragon Rose Coffee, 10% off your order with code Neon Tiger. Very, very good coffee, very good local company. Very happy to work with them. And yeah, that's about it.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight. Congratulations on the podium finish, and I look forward to seeing you next week in Nashville.
Thank you.
And finishing back here in position number 3, doesn't look like we have him up on the radio here at the moment, but it's going to be Mr. Jason Gardner, league administrator here, the guy who does all this setup stuff here for this series to make it happen.
I think he's rejoining, so he should be here in a moment.
Yeah, so we'll be giving him a moment, see if we can't get him to come back in here. And we will just have to see what he has to say, if anything. And it looks like we are going to be able to get him up here in the broadcasting booth. You got a copy on me, Mr. Jason Gardner?
I do.
Well, there you go. You got a podium to your name here tonight. It's been a pretty solid run, and it seemed like everyone was kind of all over the place, and you spent a lot of the race just trying to battle to stay inside of the top 5. So how's the podium feeling for you tonight?
Oh, it feels nice getting a top 3, especially after the rough first half of the season I've had, especially at Irwindale. Like, it's been a while since we have been at Irwindale, and I'm actually kind of glad I managed to get a top 3 out of it.
Yeah, it was definitely a heck of a performance here tonight. What did you have to do to make things finally work out in your favor here?
First off, try to keep the car in one piece. This track is very difficult to drive for me. Like, tracks like Thompson, IRP, and Irwindale, tracks that just where the outside or middle lane tends to be the preferred line. I wouldn't consider myself very good with tracks like that. So I usually end up either in the wall wrecking or out early with damage.
Yeah, fortunately that didn't happen here tonight, but of course in 2 weeks you do have IRP coming up, so it will be another outside line sort of focused track like this one. But prior to IRP, next week, Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Sabelski mentioned it is an extremely bumpy racetrack, so how are you feeling about the race heading on over there next week?
I'm very optimistic. It is a very bumpy track, but there are preferred lines that do try to avoid the bumps in the track. And I really haven't done any laps around that track with a dark car. It'll be very, very interesting to see what I can learn, what I can and can't do to try to avoid the bumps.
Yeah, definitely looks like it'll be very exciting to see how all these drivers manage to navigate a track like that. Of course, you've seen how things have gone the last 2 weeks. We've had some new competitors join the league, and they certainly seem to have some speed. So how are you feeling about your outlooks for the rest of the season with these new drivers showing up and contesting for race wins?
I'm very excited. We're always happy to have new drivers. The faster the better, I say.
Good deal. They've definitely been putting on some good shows here, so seems like we have to be looking, or a lot to be looking forward here for the rest of the season.
Yeah, we sure are. Like I know for the longest time this league has always been having a small field, so it does feel nice when we're starting to get more and more new drivers and try to fill out the field a bit more.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing how things go for the remainder of this season. But of course, for tonight, I won't keep you here all evening. The microphone is all yours, Mr. Gardner. Who do you want to thank for making this podium finish happen?
So I'd like to thank you for broadcasting the race. I also like to thank everybody out there who is watching the race and everyone who participated in today's race. Without all three of y'all, none of this would have been possible.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight. Congratulations on the podium, and I look forward to seeing you next week in Nashville.
I look forward to be there too.
You heard it here first, race fans. Your top 3 finishers here tonight: Garrett Hess, Brian Sabelski, and Jason Gardner. But of course, those weren't the only 3 drivers present in tonight's event. So how about we take a look down at our unofficial finishing results as they stand here for the time being, and see how things shaked up for the rest of the field. Of course, Hess, Sabelski, and Gardner, your 3 finishers you just heard from for their podium finishes. But back and forth, it's going to be the Dorian Motorsports number 7 of Kevin Alessia, followed by that rookie driver of Hudson Rupp, rounding out the top 5. Back in 6th, it's going to be Mark Kluge in the 45 machine, followed by the 188 of Joshua Rudolph back in 7th. Then 8th going to be the number 27 of Johnny Bell, followed by the CZ Robotics 24 of Corey Logan, with Daniel Sparks in that number 4 machine rounding out the 10th place position here tonight. That said, that's just about all we've got here from Irwindale Speedway. 150 laps of competition in the books here tonight. Of course, next week, heading on over to another short track in the form of Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. It's going to be a tough one for these drivers, and I definitely think it's going to be a very fun one to tune into. But for now, thank you all for stopping by, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Have a good evening.